Okay, we're thinking we might make a start. It's just gone 6:30. So I'm going to hand over to Siobhan. She's going to do the intro part. So yeah, if she'll go through sort of some general housekeeping, but if we can mute the microphones for now, just to make it a little bit easier, and she'll go through the process for asking questions and things. So I'll pass you over to Siobhan. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Well, welcome to everybody here this evening. And as you can see, we're kind of newbies at this type of thing as well, but I guess by the end of another 6 months, we'll be experts. We've done this kind of thing, as most of you have before, in smaller groups, but as Nicole mentioned, we were expecting about 50-55 people to join us tonight. That's who registered. So we'll see how we go anyway during the course of the evening. One of the things I just wanted to ask was, we have been asked if it would be okay to record it. A couple of people have said that they're not able to come. So what I'd like to do, rather than just record it and then distribute it, I'd just like to ask your permission. So if for some reason or another you would prefer it not to be recorded, can you please just let us know in the chat? And that will be fine. We'll just figure out some other way. We'll email the PowerPoint slides, and we will also collate some frequently asked questions as well that we'll send around after, probably sometime early next week. But if you could just let us know in the chat if you've got a particular objection to the meeting being recorded. So welcome to everybody here tonight. It's a shame that we haven't been able to get together face to face. This event has always been a great networking event at the beginning of the year, and given parents an opportunity to find out a little bit more about what we as an organisation do, Catholic School Parents WA, find out a little bit more about our online induction, and then of course have the chance to network and chat to each other over a cup of tea afterwards. So unfortunately we're not able to do that tonight, but the silver lining is that we do have some parents join us from Esperance and Bunbury. So that's really nice, because they wouldn't be able to join us otherwise. So before we start, I would just like to take the opportunity to acknowledge those on whose grounds we meet this evening across the state, and pay our respects to their elders, both past, present and future. And of course, those future ones we hope are, coming out of our Catholic schools as well. We acknowledge the ongoing stewardship and custody that they have towards the land, and they have cared for thousands of years. We also acknowledge that the relationship between Aboriginal people and the Church is a complex one, but we as a community strive to follow in Christ's reconciliation.
Yeah, there's some in here.
So as always, at the beginning of PNF meetings, we commence with prayer. And although we're all a little bit distracted in one way or another this evening, if we could just take a moment to place ourselves in God's presence, and we will pray together. A prayer for parents. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, help me in my divine task of parenthood. Help me to see my children's problems through their eyes. Keep forever before me my own childhood, so that I will not expect too much. Give me the patience of the silent stars. Give me a sense of humor. Father, help me to win them through love instead of compelling them through fear. Help me to teach them that every home is an altar, and that every wish is a prayer. Help me to live my own life above doubt and skepticism. Help me radiate faith in the basic goodness in my own life. Give me a strong hand for guidance when youth falters and would turn back. Father, help me to teach them to love bravely and to meet defeat courageously. Help me to teach them that a man's real character is what he is, alone with himself in the dark. Help me to teach them that the value of their lives will be measured by the service they give. Help me to teach them that true happiness is found not in things, but in the unfolding of their minds and their souls. Help me to make my life go on in theirs, finer, nobler than I ever dared to be. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So I think Nicole has already touched on the housekeeping. So if we keep our mics muted while we're not speaking, and that kind of means that we don't have too much distraction with feedback, etc. And I've also mentioned to you about potentially recording the meeting, so I don't think we've had anything negative about that as yet, so that's good. So I'm going to move on now and talk to you a little bit about what our organisation does on your behalf. So we are Catholic School Parents Western Australia, and we operate, I suppose, in 3 key areas: advocacy, representation and support. So the first of those is advocacy. And our key role in the advocacy space is to champion the allocation of realistic levels of public funding to ensure the financial accessibility of Catholic education for all those families who need it. And this has been a really, really important part of the work that we've done in the last 65 years as an organisation, and we continue to work hard in that space today. We do this by actively pursuing meetings with politicians from all political parties to develop effective relationships in order that we can influence policy and funding. We collaborate effectively at the national level through our parent group, Catholic School Parents Australia, ensuring that the perspective of parents and carers in Catholic schools in WA is also heard at the federal level. And this is particularly important because for those of you who are aware, our government funding comes in two parts. We get 80% of it from the federal government, and that's topped up by 20% from the state government. And then that in turn is topped up again with the school fees that we pay. So in this climate where we're rolling towards a federal election, it's really important for us to have a strong voice at that federal space so that we can ensure that Catholic parents' voices are heard. We continue, I suppose our second area of advocacy is around the area of parent engagement in learning. And we continue to strongly promote this using contemporary research, identifying projects and resources that will contribute to positive outcomes for children, young people and their families. And there's 50 years of research demonstrating that when parents engage effectively in their children's education, that the outcomes for their children will really be significant, both in a well-being perspective, but also academically. We also advocate for faith formation opportunities for family in the school environment. And in the Catholic space, this is becoming something that we're talking about a little bit more. The second area that we work in is in representation. And here we try to ensure that the independent voice of Catholic school parents, WA, is heard in all those conversations that matter. And the strategies that we use to ensure this, we try really hard to ensure that your grassroots voice is heard within the conversations that matter. When government contact us looking for feedback on various issues, they're very keen that they get not only the perspective of the peak parent bodies, but all of those parents who sit underneath us in schools and at PNET meetings across the state. So it's really important that we hear from you. I suppose we constantly ask that you get in touch with us if you've got any issues or challenges, or in fact something to celebrate. We're really, really keen to hear what they are. This year, with the National Catholic Parent Group, so Catholic School Parents Australia, we're working on a couple of big projects at the moment, one of which the federal government is funding, and it's going to be around collating information from parents around how you fared during the COVID ordeal. Of course, in WA, we're just really entering into it now, so there's been a bit of an extension put on that project so that we will be able to provide, you know, really good feedback from across the country. But in doing that, we will be doing that in various different ways. We'll be having workshops, putting together reference groups, surveys, etc. And we really, really do urge that you respond where you can to these. This is really the only way that we can collect information and make sure that your voice is heard loudly and clearly. So you'll be hearing more about that as we go through the year. We continue to be an effective statewide parent organisation by building relationships with groups which allow CSPWA to evolve whilst sustaining a focus in core activities. And last year, after quite a few years of working hard and building the relationship, we were endorsed by the Catholic Education Commission of Western Australia as the peak body representing parents of children who choose a Catholic education for their children. So that's a big endorsement, and we're very pleased about that. And we work very, very hard on the partnership that we have with Catholic Education WA. And through that partnership, we continue to aim to add strength to Catholic education in our state, as we hope that you do at your school level as well. We feel very strongly that one of the key roles of the PNF is to actually add strength to your school community, and we certainly attempt to do that at the state level. So the third area of our work is around support, and that's where we give on the ground support to all of you PNFs around the state, whether that be support and assistance with governance of your group, providing ideas, We have a conference every second year to bring all of you together. So any place at all that you think that we can help you out. Obviously, when we're not in the midst of COVID, we have the opportunity to come out and speak to parent groups who will come and visit your PNF and help you through any challenges that you might be having there. But as I say, we're always keen to hear the good news stories as well. So really, really want to hear about what that might look like in your school, and also about sharing what some of those successes are, because some schools we know struggle a little bit. And so in the spirit of co-responsibility, we think it's important that we, that we share what we're doing, that we're not working in separate little silos, but in fact working as a statewide organization, aiding and assisting each other. And so to do that, we attempt to establish and maintain trusting relationships with parents, parent groups, school advisory councils, school leadership teams, and members of Catholic Education Western Australia. We do this to enable parents and carers to engage in partnerships with those involved in educating their children. It's really important that that parent voice is heard. We're hearing a lot more in today's climate about the importance of the student voice. And of course that is so, but we also think the parent voice is very important. We assist and encourage in the development of the very, very important homeschool relationship. And we know that this contributes significantly to children's learning and well-being outcomes. And of course, we celebrate. We really aim to celebrate what's going on in all of our schools. And we do that through our annual Awards of Excellence. As I mentioned earlier, we have a conference every 2 years, and our Awards of Excellence are usually handed out at the conference, but this is a non-conference year, so we will be looking at holding some kind of an event later in the year where we'll be able to acknowledge and celebrate all the great things that are happening in our schools. So start putting your thinking caps on now to think who you might be able to nominate for some of those awards. I would expect that by the end of this term, or certainly early term 2, we'll start to put some of the information on our website that you can access. This next slide talks a little bit about Catholic social teaching principles. And these are principles that are used across Catholic education, particularly in leadership spaces. But we think it's really important that as parents, we understand what some of this means as well. In particular, Catholic education talks about things like participation. And of course, you're all doing that tonight by participating in this event, trying to source and access information that's going to ensure that your PNF runs really well. The common good, or co-responsibility. So this is where we work together as a system. So we try to not just look at ourselves in our own school, but in fact, how we work as a state as a whole, as a state parent group. Some parents have got great capacity to do things and others not so good. So we're really keen to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to build their capacity. We all in fact have the same capacity. It's just, how we go about doing it. So we're very keen that we help everybody out in that space. And subsidiarity there at the bottom is a word that you might hear within your own school. And this is really important in terms of the PNF. So this is where parents have an opportunity to participate in decisions that affect them. And subsidiarity technically means that decisions should be made at the level at which they should be made. So a party of a higher order shouldn't be making decisions when a lower order can actually make that decision themselves. That's actually quite an important one, particularly in the parent space. So as we move from that into what the role of the parent group actually looks like, some of those principles really come into play. So the role of the parent group within a school is a really important one, and it's actually quite an essential role. They can provide pastoral support for parents at times of need, and we see that frequently at times when there is a family undergoing sickness or illness, and other parents come together to cook meals or whatever, and that's really an inherent part of what we do as a Catholic community. We assist in building positive school communities, and that's actually what our awards celebrate. It's how we go about doing that. It's really important to understand that as a PNF, our role is to assist building positive school communities. It's to work with the school, to add strength to the school, but at the same time, allowing parents to have a voice and a forum where they can come together and talk about things that, are of concern to them, and how the school leadership may help them with that. And it's also about creating this authentic partnership between parents, the school leadership, the School Advisory Council and the parish. I think too often in the past, parents were a little bit of a box tick, you know, oh, we have a PNF, yeah, that means we engage with parents, but we really need to be authentic about what that looks like from the perspective of all the groups in the school. So it's a very important role that you play. So some of these are the other things we've spoken about: providing a forum for parents to talk together. Obviously, fundraising is quite a big one. Many schools now conduct their fundraising through the collection of a levy, although some schools like to do a little bit of both, like to collect a levy and do a little bit of fundraising. And of course, some of the fundraising efforts like quiz nights and those type of events cover off both things in terms of fundraising and friend raising. One of the key areas that schools really like parent groups to be involved in at the moment is around this community building, about reaching out to parents, ensuring that they feel that they're part of the school community, and in particular as we undergo COVID, and that's likely to get worse in the next couple of months here in WA before it gets better. So we would really urge you that where PNF meetings, School Advisory Council meetings are not allowed to be held face-to-face, we really do encourage that you try to bring them online. We know that there will be parents out there very anxious, you know, not having the opportunity to talk to other people during the day. So it's important that we reach out to our communities to ensure that everybody's okay. So we like to say that the PNF is about fundraising and friend raising, with friend raising, of course, being the much more important element of the two. So on that note, I'm going to hand you back over to Nicole, who's going to go through a few other slides, and then she's going to introduce you to the online induction program that we've developed over the last few years. So Nicole.
Thank you, Siobhan. So yes, we just talked about friend raising, but now we are going to talk a little bit about fundraising. So yeah, as you can see, parent groups contribute much more than just the school sports equipment. So we've listed a couple of things here, but obviously this isn't a full list. We can always add more to that, and we're happy to hear from you guys if you wanted to add any more suggestions on there. But you know, ideally we're there to support teachers and staff, so being able to fund additional resources that sit outside the normal school budget that are of benefit to the children and the community. Improve the schools, so whether that's through equipment and things that are a little bit outside the box. We've just done something recently at our school with a nature playground and wanting to then upgrade that as well. So turning a collection of individuals into a strong and supportive school community. So as Siobhan's already touched on, as well as working as a group, also working in collaboration with the leadership team and the School Advisory Council. They are the ones, that are best placed to sort of know where the gaps are and what the longer term plans of the school are. So we talk about and suggest as well, like the PNF at the beginning of the school year or possibly the end of the previous year, meeting with the leadership and School Advisory Council to talk about a bit of a wish list. Just things that are maybe outside the budget that PNF might be able to help with. And then if you are fundraising, that can be advertised, that you know any funds that profit from this event will be put towards this or that, and it just helps people sort of get more motivated and want to contribute. Supporting local businesses as well, so looking at what families in your local community are able to offer and inviting them to share that. With our nature playground, we did draw on our local community, and there was a lot of donations, a lot of people that donated their time all weekend, including our principal, to help put it together. And the last one there, business directory for families. So if the PNF was looking at putting a business directory together where people could list their businesses and contacts, we just say make sure that you put a bit of a disclaimer in there, just saying that you're not recommending one over the other or recommending these businesses, just to sort of remove any risk that might take place. But definitely a good way to be able to list, and people can add to that and update their details as new families come into the school community. The next part we were going to talk about is why volunteer. So first one, modelling positive behaviour for our children. So I was thinking about this and just thinking about the values that our school has, and there's, you know, each school has separate but very similar values, and we talk to our children about that, and the school talks to our children about that. And so if we're showing these kinds of helpful and compassionate behaviours, I just think it's really good for our children to see that as well. gaining new skills and confidence. I know that I've learned a lot about marketing and event planning, and I've never done anything like that in my life before, but it feels like that's my second life, with all the different things that I do on the PNF, with all of our PNF members. Good for the resume. So employers like to see these are all the things that I do in a paid capacity, but I'm also willing to go that extra mile, and this is what I do in my spare time. For the benefits of our children, of course. So it may feel like a lot of work and a little bit of stress at the time, but when you get to sit back and look at the amazing event that you put on, or that wonderful bit of play equipment, or new books that the kids have got, you know, it's just really good to sit back and look at that and just, you know, give yourselves a pat on the back for what you've done. So fosters a sense of community. We sort of already talked, well, Siobhan sort of touched on that, but looking at the services that people can offer, events that the PNF bring together and bring into the community, and bringing people together, and as I say, building that village of, you know, raising the children together. The kids get to know other adults in the school. They go to those adults if they need help. Those adults get to know your children, and just they're people that you're going to be spending the rest of your schooling with. So it's a really nice opportunity to bring everyone together. Sharing the load, that's definitely a big one. If everyone just does a little bit, it seems to be a little bit less daunting, makes it not so overwhelming, and just, yeah, everyone can sit back and be proud of themselves for what they've contributed towards. Giving something back, I think we've sort of talked about that. Feeling valued and part of the team. So, you know, research says that volunteering does increase your feeling of self-worth, and again, it's really great to look back and see the achievements that you've done. And co-responsibility, as Siobhan's also talked about as well. So working for the common good, not looking at all of our individual interests, although they can be helpful, but looking at the overall benefit to the school community. And just looking at, as Siobhan had said to me earlier today, how those of us who have can help those of us who have not, which I thought was really nice. Looking at, you know, who has specific skills in area or knowledge in a certain area, and just bringing all of those things together. Some other things, I mean, this list, it's definitely not the only list. There's lots more things that we could add and talk about, and we're definitely happy, as Siobhan said, to hear from schools about things that are working well for you. We can put them in our newsletter or add them to our list or make a resource out of it. I think another good reason to volunteer, personally, what I've found, and the reason I wanted to get into it, the PNF, was just to build a relationship with the leadership team and build a relationship with my kids' teachers. I think I've noticed, you know, having that relationship with the leadership team, if they're wanting parent feedback or student feedback or family feedback, if you've got that relationship, they'll come to you and they'll ask. Same as with the teachers, you know, if you have to talk to them about an awkward kind of situation, but you've got that relationship with them, I just think it's much easier and really helps to have that common goal of working for the best for your child. So we've had instances where parents and teachers have been working together in the canteen, handing out hot dogs at the end of a disco, and it's just really nice to have that time with the teacher outside of the classroom to get to know a little bit about them. Another good reason to volunteer is to spend time with your children. Like, I always thought my kids would be embarrassed by that, but I see them smile when they see me at school, and I actually really like that, at least while they're in primary school. May change later, but hopefully not. Lastly as well, I read an article today that said research shows that people who volunteer live longer, have lower stress levels, and are generally healthier. So if that's not a good reason, then I don't know what is. How to attract volunteers. So we, on our new website, in our resources section, we have a very good 2-page document that goes through lots of different tips and strategies on how to attract volunteers. So some of them we've listed here. I think the one about treating your volunteers well, acknowledging, appreciating, and being accurate with expectations is really important, as with all of them. But if there's a way that you can thank the volunteers through the newsletter or through the class rep emails or at assemblies, things like that. And I think with the expectations as well, being clear about what their job or role will be at the time and what the outcomes are, it just, you know, means that they're not feeling overwhelmed. And yeah, at the end they can say, wow, I achieved that, I contributed, it's really worked out really well. Write help wanted ads. I think that's a great idea. Use a personal approach. I think it's important to note as well that a lot of volunteers are worried that if they do say yes to something, then we're going to inundate them and ask them and expect them to do everything. So one suggestion is maybe looking at a couple of little jobs that need doing that would only take half an hour to an hour. And so maybe approaching someone saying, oh, I know you don't have a lot of time, but would you be able to help with just that? Or if someone comes and says, what can I help with? Then you've got a list of different things that they can choose that might be in their area of expertise or knowledge. And it's just a bit less overwhelming. I think as well on our website with our resource on this, there's also a list of what not to do for volunteers, which is very helpful as well. So something that I've always been told and have tried to remember to say to people as well is don't ever turn volunteers away. So sometimes you might put out an email saying who can help and don't have much of a response. And then so you kind of cater for everyone. And then on the day you'll have people come up, oh, can I help? And if you sort of say, oh no, that's fine, we're good, we don't need anything, that's their experience of asking to help and have been told no. And it can be a little bit daunting for them to come back at another time and ask for help because they expect that maybe the same thing might happen again. So find any kind of job that you can so that they'll stay and come back. If you guys have any other ideas or stories of how you've attracted volunteers, even within the PNF or to office bearer roles, we would love to hear them. So let us know. Okay, now to the online induction. So this is something that we offer to schools that are affiliated with us. So it can be accessed through our website. So we've got a brand new website that launched at the end of last year and it looks really nice. So down the very bottom of the website, there's about 4 or 5 tiles and one of them says clearly the School Parent Association induction. So if you click on that, you'll be brought to this external website, which is an online induction to be able to work at your own pace. So you come to this page and then in the top right hand corner, there's the login option. So you'll go to that first and then you will actually fill in the register side. So put in your first name, surname, email address, the school that you're from. If you're an office bearer, then there's an option to put in which office bearer you are. And then say that you would like to get a verification code and that will come through to me as an email and then I'll be able to give you permission. So I try to get to that every day. So I apologize if it might be one day late. But yes, especially after tonight, I will definitely be checking it a lot more regularly. So then once you've got that password, you come back to this page again and then you can actually put in your verification code and start working your way through the induction. So when you get to the first page, this goes through the contents of everything that you're able to work on. Down the bottom, it just says that you can start the course and just work through at your own pace. So you can log in and out as much as you like. Yeah, we don't monitor or tell you off if you don't complete certain sections, but if you do complete everything, you will get a nice certificate at the end that will be emailed to you. So that's a nice thing to stick on your wall. So some examples of the different modules that we'll go through are all of the office bearer positions. So we've got president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, class rep even, representative to the school advisory council. So it goes through all of those roles and I would suggest you have a look at all of them, even if it's not your role, just to get a better understanding of how the whole team should be working together and what everyone's different duties are. We tried to keep this up to date as much as possible. So we've added a couple of slides within the last week, just over different initiatives and things that are coming out through CSPWA. So if you're working your way through it and you think, oh, I felt like they didn't really explain this well enough, or I wish that there was something on this, or I wish there was something more in the introduction before we launched into it, then please let us know and we can try to develop something and put it in, or we can tweak the pages to add more or take things out that are outdated. Some of the additional things that are just chopped off that slide. So once you've looked at the different office bearer roles, there's also a help sheet, I guess, on the road to resolution. So if you're finding that there's issues within the PNF or between the PNF and leadership, it's just a good little resource to kind of look at the first few steps to try to resolve that. And there's also some information on the CSPWA Quality Catholic Education Framework and the CSPWA Child Safe Framework. So they're available through the CSPWA website, but we just thought if we pop them into this, then as you're going through, it just gives you a bit of background information as you're moving through the modules. So an example of one of the ones of the roles. So this is the role of the president or the chair. Module. So it will go through obviously the role and then it will have some additional duties at the end. So there are different things that you may want to include in or out of the role. So just some different suggestions. I was also thinking, it could be a good thing that you could use as a bit of a guide for a handover or to induct people into the PNF yourself. So we've sort of suggested in some of our resources that it might be good to do a bit of a file or a welcome letter and a list of duties of what that position entails when somebody starts in the new position. So this might be a good way just to grab a couple of dot points out of them just to help in those sorts of packs, just to get you going. And on our website as well, in the resource section for PNFs, we've got handover form as well. So it's just a sort of checklist that you could do. So someone could sort of start working on that at the end of the year as they're looking at stepping down from that position, and also to give to someone sort of at the beginning of the year to talk through if you're able to have that handover one-to-one. So that's another really good resource to go with this as well. I think that might be, yes, the end of my little section. So that was a lot of words, I'm sorry. But so that's our online induction. You can access it through the website. And if you're working your way through it and you have any questions or anything like that, then feel free to give us an email, and yeah, we can answer those questions for you. Okay, I'll pass you back to Siobhan.
Great, thanks Nicole for all that. And I should just let you all know Nicole was super nervous this afternoon about all this. I think she's done an awesome job. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Nicole is the very successful president of the PNF at her own children's school, so she's just an absolute world of knowledge there. I'm going to now just bring it all to a conclusion. There are just a couple of things I'd like to mention before we finish. You see there that, you know, that the PNF does have an opportunity to really do some really good work in a school and, you know, help to build a robust school community. And one of the things, of course, is that, you know, we want other people to be looking at our schools as places they would like to be part of. That, you know, we think it would be fantastic if you know, parents saw your local Catholic school as a community that they really wanted to participate. And so the way we go about our business contributes to that. We need to always remain as positive as we can, notwithstanding the fact that sometimes, you know, we do have challenges, but there are processes to manage those, and we need to be sure to manage them in an effective and positive kind of way. And, you know, within that, to remember that we are a Catholic community, and we want to, you know, to behave in that certain way. Just a couple of things before we leave. I mentioned advocacy earlier on, and I'd just like to mention one of the things that we're doing at the moment. We have a meeting with the Minister for Education at the end of this month. And when we organise meetings with the Minister, she always wants an agenda in advance, which we sent through today, and we have various things on it. But one of the agenda items, which is this is the third time now it's on an agenda for meeting with her, and that's around COVID relief. You would have read in the newspapers at the beginning of last year, maybe towards the end of 2020, that the state government came up with $42 million to provide to state schools for COVID relief, and that much for Catholic schools. That's a zero in case you can't see it. We think this is inherently unfair. We feel very strongly that COVID is actually, it's a health issue. It's not an education issue. And it's not been budgeted for in any school budgets. And now we just come back to the start of this year where schools have been, it's been suggested to schools that they put purifiers and air filters in classrooms. And once again, the state government has provided 12,000 air purifiers for the state school system and nothing at all for the Catholic school system. The first effort of Catholic schools is to ensure that their children, their staff and their community are safe. And their safety and well-being and health is priority. So there is no doubt that whatever needs to be done to ensure this will be done. But the fact remains that that money has to come from somewhere, and it comes out of school budgets. So we think it's just super important that the government try and give us some kind of assistance regarding this. So we have that back on the agenda again for our meeting at the end of this month. And if anybody would like to, you know, to contribute to that conversation or find out a little bit more, please give the office a call, and we will, you know, add your thoughts to that agenda item. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was that there are potentially some changes coming around. We're looking at the governance of PNFs, as we do on a fairly regular basis, to make sure that it's up to date and, you know, it complies with current regulations, etc. So we're working on some governance documents with some people at CSPWA. And it's likely that you will start to see some changes come through in the course of the year. The work started last year, but it's transpired that it's a much bigger piece of work than we initially thought. So some of the things that are likely to change is that the constitutions are likely to be replaced by terms of reference. And the one role that would probably change fairly significantly is that of the treasurer and also the monies of the organisation. So we're looking at all that at the moment, and as soon as we have some definitive information around that, we'll obviously be back in touch again. Lastly, There are some PNFs out there, probably about maybe between 10 and 15 of them that have incorporated constitutions. And we have been contacted by some of these people, you know, some questioning why some are incorporated and some aren't. So I suppose our advice around PNFs in the Catholic school system is that there is no real need for you to be incorporated. The state school systems are all incorporated, but they are because they actually employ people. So they employ canteen managers and uniform shop managers, etc. And we don't do that in our system. So being set up as an incorporated body is quite onerous, and there's lots of reporting that you need to be doing. And interestingly, some of the groups that are incorporated aren't actually aware of what they should be doing. So, you know, in a sense, they're non-compliant as well. So if you have a look at your constitution and just make sure that you're not incorporated, and if you are, you probably need to have a conversation with your body about, you know, what that means going forward. And of course, if you want any help with that, you know, please don't hesitate to contact the office. So on that note, we're going to finish off now. I'm going to leave you with a lovely slide with some words that were written. They were actually written over 20 years ago by Agnes Weymouth, who is a past president and is a current life member of CSPWA. And her words, although were 20 years ago, are just as pertinent today. And she said, "I'm particularly proud of the Parents and Friends Federation," which is what we used to be called, "reputation hard earned over many years. We live in turbulent times when substantial distrust exists between people, government, and nations. It would be easy to excuse ourselves by not taking responsibility for the affairs of the world and society around us, thinking that there is nothing we can do. However, as individuals and organizations, we can at all times be honest with ourselves and honest with others and respect all people, regardless of nationality, creed, or political persuasion. Let us all continue to be known for caring qualities, integrity, and trustworthiness." And I think it makes the hairs on my arm actually stand up every time I read that out loud. And, you know, it's amazing that Agnes wrote that so long ago, but it's still so relevant today. So on that note, we finish on the official part of the evening, and we would like now to hear if anybody's got any questions or comments or anything else that they would like to add. Is there more information that you would like to find out? You can either put your comments in the chat or raise your hand. And the raise hand option is, Jem, where? In reactions, yeah. Oh, Kylie, if you just unmute and let us know what you'd like to say.
Hi there. I'm just wondering, we've come across a very old copy of our constitution, and I'm just wondering if you guys can assist us in the updating of that document.
We can. I suppose the difficult part at the moment is that we're kind of in this transition space where we're waiting for the terms of reference to be ratified. And so I'm loath to say to people, you know, go through the motions of updating your constitution when we feel that there's something probably going to supersede that by the end of the year. However, we're really happy to, you know, to look through your current constitution, see if we can make like a few updates that you could adopt for the moment. And then we will be sending out, sorry. Okay, so Jen is just saying to me that we might even have an updated one on our file, and so we can check that out for you as well. But we can certainly work with you so that you have something that you can be working with currently while we wait for the terms of reference to be finalized.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so if you just let us know, or do we have what school Kylie's from? So we can contact.
Oh, St. Helena's in Ellenbrook, St. Helena's Catholic Primary.
Okay, cool. Okay, so one of us will contact you, Kylie. It'll probably be early next week, if that's okay, because we're not in the office tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine. Just when you have a minute, that'd be great.
Right, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything that they'd like to add or ask a question about? Okay. Well, on that note, we might have an early mark tonight. So we'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time to participate tonight. If you go onto our website, we've updated our website over the course of last year, and we are continuing to populate that at the moment. So once again, you know, when you have a look around it, you know, see what's there and what you can use. And if you're looking for something that you can't find, please let us know. We're very good at creating new resources, and we're really happy to do that in order to help you be more effective. So anybody else before we say goodnight? Great. Okay. Well, on that note, we'll say goodnight to everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you face to face next time. Oh, hang on. Somebody's
One question.
In regards to, say, COVID activity plan for PNFs to keep up the school spirit, what can some PNFs do?
Okay, so that's actually a really good question. Certainly, I would definitely try to continue with some kind of online meetings. And there's no restrictions yet about meeting off-site. So it might be that through your class reps that you could, you know, suggest some coffee catch-ups. I mean, I know that's a bit tricky for parents who are working, but maybe even do something in the evenings to have Zoom meetings just to catch up. So make them informal, I would say, at this stage. If you're going to have a PNF meeting, by all means, go ahead and do that and go through the normal processes that you would go through that. But I think it's useful as well just to send a link out to people and say, look, we're just going to have a catch up and a coffee. I know some people do it with a glass of wine. I know that sounds very unusual for Catholic school parents, but there you go. And just, you know, just catch up and see what's happening. I think it's a great way as well of finding out if the kids are okay. And, you know, if you find that your kids are a little bit anxious at the moment, just by talking to someone else and someone else saying the same thing, you know, you'll know that, okay, this is something that we're all going through together. So what kind of things are you sharing with your kids? And, you know, it's really about working together. And, you know, we do have the technology to catch up online now. So I think that we really need to try and do it. I'd be loath to hear people cancelling everything. I think we still need to make some kind of effort to catch up. And, you know, whether that's in class year groups or whatever, you'll know better what will work at your school in that respect. But definitely keep the lines of communication open. Even with, you know, primary school kids, you know, on the weekend to catch up at the local park or something like that might be useful for a little picnic. And, you know, in the secondary space, I think it's equally important because there's a sense sometimes that parents are not as involved in the secondary space. But, you know, we're all still parents, and, you know, I'm a parent of 2 teenagers, and I really certainly needed the support of other parents, you know, when my kids were in year 8 and year 9, when, you know, it can kind of start to go slightly pear-shaped with hormones, etc. You know, so it's really important that you keep connected with your groups in that space. Anything else? No? Okay. Oh, Kate.
Just me, Siobhan. I just wanted to add in a bit on that. I remember last year when we had, I think, the induction meeting, we were actually able to meet, and a good one that I thought that I'm going to actually take back to my PNF this year was a school actually had a pasta run. So during lockdown, they got all the parents, or they sent it out to the community, and on a Friday night, they you know, they went to a local business. They took orders and they did like a little pasta drop off. So parents came through in their cars, picked it up at the school, and so the PNF was all there. So it was just that little bit of interaction. So, you know, I thought that was a great idea. And, you know, I think they're, especially how we're living at the minute, maybe those ones, you know, to think outside the box a little bit. You know, so I'd be really keen if anyone had any more ideas like that to send them through to Siobhan and Nick, and to put those types of ideas out as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, Kate, and certainly we'd be really keen to hear, you know, those ideas. You might go away from this evening and come up with a great idea, you know, as you're getting into bed tonight, and just jot it down on a piece of paper and send it through to us tomorrow, because this is the kind of thing that we really want to share, I think that's a great idea. And, you know, it's a fun thing, you know, kids get involved with that kind of thing as well. So, and it's still connected to school. So I think it's important that our children still see that we are connected to school in some way, because of course, you know, nobody's really allowed onto school sites at the moment. And I think it's important, in order for kids to see the importance that we place on their education, that we still have that connection to school. So I think that kind of fun idea would really work.
I'm just going to pipe in there, Siobhan. Hi everyone, I'm Renee Bennett from St. Peter's in Bedford. Just taken on the P&F role amongst everything else. I actually own an event management company as well. So from my perspective, we've had to pivot a lot to virtual stuff in terms of engaging people. So just hearing some of your ideas, there are a lot of platforms out there that, you know, you can use to actually engage and create a community sense and feel and do something together. So there's even stuff like virtual wine tastings and gin tastings and things like that that you can engage with to support local producers. There's virtual quiz nights that you can do and get your teams together or get your class groups together in that sort of format as well. So there are a number of different methods that we use as an organisation to actually work with our clients to actually feel that sense of that Zoom fatigue in some ways, but still feeling like they're connected, even though you can't be there face to face.
That's fantastic, Renee. I might actually reach out to you and have a chat with you at some stage.
Yeah, sure. No problem, Siobhan. I'm only up the road from you, actually. So,
well, I've met you in the car park the last time, I think so. Yeah, no, that would be great if we could arrange a time to catch up and have a coffee or a gin and talk about some of these things.
I work better with gin.
All right, thanks, Renee.
Hi, my name's Jodie Babb. I'm from St Bernadette's down in Port Kennedy. I was just thinking of a couple of ideas today that I'm going to run through with our team and with the principal of like doing a local scavenger hunt in the area with families, trying to involve them, because that way we could look at two alternatives: doing it via car, the local area, and incorporating local businesses, or doing it via bikes, depending on how fit everyone is. That won't be me, I'll be in the car. That was one idea. And also another one was maybe looking at doing a online movie night. So that families from home, but again, we have to look at licensing and so forth. But again, we're all watching the same movie. We do a welcome online and then we put on the movie. And again, that sense of community, but still staying safe. So
yeah, no, that's a great idea as well, Jodie. Thanks for that. I hope those of you who are providing ideas, I hope you don't mind if we share them around.
No, go for it. And any ideas or any suggestions from everyone on, you know, ways to implement or ways they see we could do it better, please. You know, that's what we all are, a community.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Anybody else with some fantastic idea? No? Okay, well, I think on that note, we will let everybody go and have your glass of wine or whatever tickles your fancy. And once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your presence. Sorry we haven't been able to do it in person, but hopefully the next one, when we do meet in person, it will be bigger and better. And hopefully at some stage, if we're allowed to do so, we will see some of you at our Building Positive School Awards later in the year. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.